December 1944, Battle of the Bulge. Belgium snow fell like ashes from a dying sky. The forest crackled with gunfire, its silence shattered by the roar of American Shermans crawling through ice and mud. Their Black Panther emblem, fangs bared, glowed faintly under the flares. Inside one tank, a young gunner whispered a prayer. Another loaded shells with frozen hands. None of them knew if they'd live past dawn. They were the 761st Tank Battalion, the U.S. Army's first all-black armored unit, fighting in a war for freedom while denied it themselves. Over the radio, a hard-edged voice growled, "I don't care what color you are, just kill those Nazi bastards." It was General George S. Patton. As shells thundered across the snow, the order of their commander, Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, cut through the storm. "Come out fighting." The Black Panthers rolled forward into fire, history, and immortality. Before the snow and blood of Belgium, before the thunder of tank engines and the smoke of victory, there was humiliation and waiting. The year was 1942, and America was still deeply divided by race. While President Roosevelt called on the nation to defend democracy abroad, millions of black Americans lived under Jim Crow laws at home, denied equal rights, jobs, and even dignity. Yet they enlisted. They believed that by fighting fascism, they might also strike a blow against racism. At Camp Claiborne, Louisiana, the U.S. Army quietly formed a new armored unit, the 761st Tank Battalion, on April 1st, 1942. Its members were all African American. Their mission, to train as tankers and prove that courage had no color. But even before their first battle, they faced another enemy, the prejudice of their own army. The U.S. military of World War II was a mirror of the segregated America it served. Black soldiers were often confined to support roles, cooks, drivers, and laborers, not combat troops. At Camp Claiborne, they slept in separate barracks. They ate in separate mess halls. Many white officers refused to lead them. The battalion's first commander, Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, was different. Bates was a disciplined, no-nonsense officer, but unlike many of his peers, he believed in his men. He treated them as soldiers, not statistics. Under his command, training became brutal but fair. The 761st learned to move, shoot, and survive like a single armored beast. They spent 2 years training in the sweltering Louisiana heat, performing live fire drills, engine maintenance, and maneuvers that pushed both man and machine to the edge. But while they trained to fight Nazis, the war at home kept reminding them who they were in America's eyes. In July 1944, one of their lieutenants, a young athlete named Jack Roosevelt Robinson, was arrested for refusing to move to the back of a segregated military bus at Fort Hood, Texas. Lieutenant Colonel Bates refused to court-martial him, recognizing Robinson's moral courage. But higher command transferred Robinson to another unit anyway, where he was court-martialed and later acquitted, too late to rejoin the 761st in combat. That moment symbolized what the 761st faced every day. They were good enough to die for America, but not to ride where they pleased, despite their flawless performance. The War Department hesitated to send the 761st into battle. Some white generals claimed black soldiers lacked discipline and courage. Others feared racial tensions in combat. It wasn't until General George S. Patton, commander of the U.S. Third Army, requested reinforcements in late 1944 that the 761st got their chance. Patton, known for his brutal honesty and military genius, was skeptical at first. Privately, he doubted whether Negro troops could perform under fire, but when Bates' men proved themselves in training maneuvers, Patton changed his tone. Before their first mission, he addressed them in his signature growl. "Men, you're the first Negro tankers ever to fight in the American Army. I would never have asked for you if you weren't good. Everyone's watching you, especially your race. Don't let them down, and damn you, don't let me down." The words burned into their memory. It was more than a pep talk. It was a challenge to history itself. In October 1944, after 2 years of waiting, the 761st finally landed in France. The tanks, M4 Sherman medium tanks, rolled ashore at Omaha Beach. The same blood-soaked sands where thousands of Americans had died just months earlier on D-Day. From there, they moved north toward Belgium, attached to Patton's Third Army. Their motto, "Come out fighting," became their creed. But their entry into the war would not be easy. Many white infantry divisions were shocked to see an all-black tank battalion. Some refused to cooperate at first. The 761st knew they would have to fight not only the Germans, but also doubt from friend and foe alike. Still, morale was high. The men had waited too long for this moment. By early November 1944, their orders came. The 761st would join the 26th Infantry Division in the offensive to break through German defenses in northeastern France. Their first target, a small village called Morville-le-Vicq, was supposed to be an easy victory. Instead, it would become a baptism by fire, a nightmare of mud, ambushes and sacrifice that would forge the legend of the Black Panthers. The men loaded their tanks, painted their insignia, a Black Panther ready to strike, and rolled out. Behind every armored steel hull was a soldier who knew he was fighting two wars, one in Europe and one back home. The story of the 761st Tank Battalion begins not on the battlefield, but in the segregated barracks of World War II America. In 1942, when the U.S. Army created the battalion at Camp Claiborne, Louisiana, it was an experiment, a test of whether black soldiers were fit to fight in tanks. Many white officers doubted them, but one man didn't, Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, their commanding officer. He treated them with the dignity others denied. Even when the Army pressured him to court-martial one of his lieutenants, a young officer named Jackie Robinson, Bates refused. Robinson would later become the first black player in Major League Baseball. The men trained hard under the harsh Louisiana sun, in the mud of Texas, and finally at Camp Hood. They spent over 2 years preparing, longer than most white tank units, yet they were still held back from combat. They painted a Black Panther's head on every Sherman, a silent promise of strength, pride, and rage. Their motto was short and fierce, "Come out fighting." In the fall of 1944, orders finally came. The 761st would join General Patton's Third Army in Europe. Even Patton himself, known for his skepticism, told them bluntly, "You're a black outfit and I never wanted you, but you're here now. The enemy is out there. Don't let me down." And they didn't. What came next would rewrite the history of both the war and America's struggle for equality. Morville-le-Vicq. France, November 7th, 1944. The rain had turned the French countryside into a sea of mud. Villages were shattered, bridges broken, and German defenses hidden deep behind hedgerows. Into this chaos rolled the 761st Tank Battalion, attached to Patton's 26th Infantry Division. Their first real battle came near the village of Morville-le-Vicq, a small dot on the map. But a brutal test of everything they'd trained for. As the tanks advanced, German anti-tank guns opened fire from the woods. Shells ripped through the lead vehicles, turning steel into fire. Yet the Black Panthers didn't retreat. They flanked, maneuvered, and kept fighting hour after hour through rain, mud, and machine gun bursts. Among them was Staff Sgt. Ruben Rivers, a man whose courage became legend. When his tank was hit and his leg torn open by shrapnel, medics begged him to evacuate. Rivers refused. He bound his wound, climbed back into his Sherman, and radioed his commander, "I ain't going nowhere. We got Germans ahead." For 3 more days, Rivers led assaults through German lines, destroying enemy positions until another shell finally claimed his life. His sacrifice broke the German defense, and his battalion captured the town. Years later, the U.S. Army would honor him with the Medal of Honor, calling him a hero whose bravery inspired his entire unit. That day, the 761st proved something the world had refused to believe, that black soldiers could fight. lead and die with the same valor as anyone else. From that muddy village in France, the legend of the Black Panthers began to roar across Europe. Ardennes Forest, Belgium. December 1944 snow fell like ash over the frozen woods of Belgium. The air was sharp, the roads slick with ice, and the distant thunder of artillery echoed across the Ardennes. For the men of the 761st Tank Battalion, this was hell on earth. The Germans had launched their last desperate counteroffensive, the Battle of the Bulge. More than 200,000 enemy troops smashed through thin Allied lines, catching the Americans completely off guard. Chaos reigned across the front. Patton's Third Army was ordered north to strike back fast. And leading that push through blizzards and blood were the Black Panthers. Their tanks crawled forward over frozen ground, engines straining, treads biting into snow. Inside, the men shivered in the bitter cold, hands raw, faces burned by frost. There was no warmth, no rest, only the roar of diesel and the crack of enemy shells. In the town of Tillit, the 761st fought street by street, tank by tank, against a dug-in German force. Buildings crumbled. Flames lit the sky. American infantry were pinned down until the Black Panthers rolled in, guns blazing. One Sherman tank after another advanced under heavy fire, their crews refusing to fall back. In one instance, a Panther tank knocked out 6 German panzer positions in less than 30 minutes, saving an entire company of trapped soldiers. For their courage at Tillit, the battalion received high praise from the Army Command. A report later noted, their aggressive fighting spirit and high degree of professionalism were outstanding under the most adverse conditions. Still, the price was terrible. Many of their tanks were lost. Dozens of men froze in the snow or were killed by hidden mines and ambushes. But their push helped blunt the German advance and kept the Allied counterattack alive. In the dark forests of Belgium, where white snow turned red, the 761st Tank Battalion fought not just the Nazis, but the weight of a nation's prejudice. Each mile they gained was more than ground on a map. It was a step toward equality, carved in steel and sacrifice. Austria and Germany, spring 1945. The snows of Belgium had melted into the mud of Germany. The war was nearing its end, but for the 761st Tank Battalion, the fighting never slowed. From France to Belgium, from the Rhine to the Danube, they had pushed nearly 1,800 miles across Europe, smashing through enemy lines, liberating towns, and proving their worth in every battle. By April 1945, the Black Panthers were advancing deep into Austria with Patton's Third Army. Their tanks rolled past burned villages, twisted rail lines, and fleeing German columns. Then came Gunskirchen. It was a place few of them would ever forget. When the 761st approached the outskirts of the camp, they saw what they first thought were enemy troops. But as they drew closer, the shapes resolved into emaciated human beings, thousands of prisoners, staggering and skeletal, their eyes hollow from starvation. The smell of death hung in the air. Piles of corpses lay beside wooden huts. Survivors wept and reached for the tank crews as they climbed down from their Shermans. For the men of the 761st, hardened by months of combat, this was something different. This was the face of evil. Staff Sgt. William McBurney later said, "We'd seen a lot of killing, but never anything like this. It wasn't war. It was murder." The liberation of Gunskirchen concentration camp was one of the 761st's final acts in Europe. They had entered history not only as warriors, but as witnesses to humanity's darkest chapter. By May 1945, Nazi Germany surrendered. The war was over. But when the Black Panthers returned home, there were no parades, no medals, no headlines. They were sent back quietly into a segregated America, an America that still refused to see them as equals. General Patton had once told them before, "Battle, I don't care what color you are as long as you kill those bastards." And they did. They killed the enemy, they liberated nations, they carried the torch of freedom, even when their own country dimmed it. It would take decades before the world remembered their name. Post-war America, 1945 to 1978, when the guns fell silent in Europe, the men of the 761st Tank Battalion expected at least acknowledgement, a parade, a medal, a simple salute of respect. None came. They stepped off ships and trains into the same segregated America they had left behind, where whites-only signs still hung on walls, and a uniform meant nothing if your skin was black. Many soldiers returned home to small southern towns where they couldn't even vote. Others found work only as laborers or janitors, their wartime ranks stripped away by society's blind prejudice. The irony was bitter. They had fought Hitler's racism abroad, only to face America's at home. For decades, their story went untold, overshadowed by white units whose names filled textbooks and history reels. And yet, within the silence, the spirit of the 761st never died. Veterans of the battalion met quietly at reunions, sharing memories of cold nights in France and the faces they'd seen at Gunskirchen. They carried photos, medals, and scars, proof that they had done their duty when their nation doubted them. Then, in the 1970s, a new generation of historians and black veterans began to dig into the forgotten archives. They found battle reports, citations, and eyewitness testimonies proving what the men of the 761st had always known. They were one of the most effective tank battalions of World War II. Between November 1944 and May 1945, the 761st had fought in 183 continuous days of combat, more than almost any other American armored unit, captured or destroyed over 400 enemy vehicles and gun positions, liberated dozens of towns across France, Belgium, and Austria, earned 11 Silver Stars, 69 Bronze Stars, and 300 Purple Hearts. Still, the recognition came slowly, painfully slowly. Finally, on January 24, 1978, more than 3 decades after the war ended, President Jimmy Carter awarded the Presidential Unit Citation to the 761st Tank Battalion for extraordinary heroism in action. It was the first time the U.S. government formally recognized what those men had done and what they had endured. In the White House that day, a few aging veterans stood in uniform again. Some wept, others stood silent, their backs straight, their pride unbroken. For them, it wasn't about medals anymore. It was about finally being seen. For more than 50 years, the story of the Black Panthers of the 761st lived mostly in the memories of those who had been there, passed through family stories, veteran reunions, and faded photographs. But history has a way of resurfacing, especially stories of courage long denied their due. In the early 1990s, a wave of historians and veterans advocates pushed for long overdue recognition of African American soldiers who had fought heroically under segregation. Their research uncovered forgotten citations, combat logs, and eyewitness testimonies that proved beyond any doubt. The men of the 761st had not only fought bravely, they had changed history. And at the heart of this rediscovery stood one name that echoed louder than the rest: Staff Sgt. Ruben Rivers. Rivers had died in November 1944, refusing evacuation, commanding his tank while bleeding from his leg, until a German anti-tank gun finally struck him down. For decades, his sacrifice was remembered only by his comrades. Then, on January 13th, 1997, President Bill Clinton presented the Medal of Honor, America's highest military award, to 7 African-American World War II veterans. Among them was Staff Sgt. Ruben Rivers, honored posthumously. As Clinton's voice echoed in the East Room, he said, "The men we honor today paved the way for a new generation of soldiers, for a new generation of Americans." In that moment, the legacy of the 761st Tank Battalion finally took its rightful place in American memory. Their motto, "Come out fighting," became more than a battle cry. It became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that patriotism sometimes means fighting for a country that doesn't yet see your worth. Today, the Black Panthers' story is taught in military academies and history programs across the United States. Their tanks, the M4 Shermans once covered in snow and mud, are displayed in museums, their insignia repainted proudly. A roaring Black Panther, teeth bared, claws extended. The battalion's surviving members became speakers and educators, visiting schools and telling young Americans that courage isn't defined by skin color, it's defined by conviction. In 2021, the U.S. Army Armor and Cavalry Collection dedicated a permanent exhibit to the 761st. Their legacy continues in the armor units that followed, diverse, united, and trained under the same ideals the Panthers fought for. Each generation of soldiers who climbs into a tank now inherits their story. Not just of war, but of dignity. Because the 761st didn't only fight the Nazis, they fought the weight of centuries and won. And so as the final image fades, we hear the words once spoken to them by General Patton. "I don't care what color you are, as long as you kill those bastards." But history wiser now adds the words that Patton never did, and you did, with honor. They fought 2 wars, one against fascism overseas and one against prejudice at home. In both, they proved that valor has no color. The 761st Tank Battalion of the Black Panthers came out fighting, and their roar still echoes through history.